Hello. If you want to support us here at The Contemporary Gentleman, you can buy into our Spy series, links below. And depending on when this was recorded, we may or may not have an Instagram and or Patreon. If we do, links are below. Cheers. Hello everyone, James Donaldson here with The Contemporary Gentleman, and in this video I'll be talking about my thoughts on the Sig Sauer MCX Virtus as an entire weapon system. Obviously, if you follow me, I've done several videos on various types of MCXs, whereas this video is a culmination of my thoughts over everything together. So I'll be talking about things like barrel lengths and calibers, lengths of the guns, rails, etc. Now, disclosure, all these items were acquired by a third party. So overall function, what is this gun supposed to do? Well, overall, it is supposed to fire bullets. Ideally, two things primarily, reliably and accurately. Those two things are top of the list, right? Weight savings comes in later if possible, quietness comes in later, size comes in later, right? But reliability and accuracy, those are the main things. And I would say it very well covers those things overall. So, moving on, it is based on the AR-18. And if you don't know what that is, it's just another original Armalite variant that a lot of guns are actually based on. Some other interesting facts is I've heard that one of the engineers, I don't think it was Kevin Brittingham, but could be someone else from AAC after the Honey Badger creation, they actually had input on this gun. And then I've also heard another myth that somebody to do with the 416 also gave thoughts toward whatever. I haven't handled the 416 on paper, or an MR556 for that matter, but there are things about this that I think are better, at least on paper. As we know, on paper isn't always right. You also have to put it into practice. So, just saying my 2 cents there. Again, AR-18, Google image AR-18 rifle, and when you look at the breakdown, it's very similar. So, moving on from there. So one of the things that I really like about this, and one of the things that I think it has over the HK variant of this type of weapon system, is it kept all the right AR-15 features, right? So the controls first and foremost, right? Someone who is not really familiar with AR-15s, you can teach them on a Smith & Wesson M&P15, and then you can hand them this gun, and it's going to pretty much operate the same, other than you have a little bit of added ambidextrous capabilities. They might not even notice that if you don't point it out. So that's how similar it is in terms of general operation, right? So moving from there, magazines. So when I look at other 5.56 guns, right, say the 55 series, 5.51, 5.52, whatever, they use a different magazine. So many people have adopted AR-15 parts, it's hard for them to move away. And so while this doesn't share 100%, it shares a lot of the important ones. Another one would be grip. You can just put on AR-15 grip on this. If you like the HK416 grip, put that on. If you like the Daniel Defense grip, put that on. Magpul, whatever, BCM. You can very much customize this gun a lot of the ways you can in AR-15, especially in the ways that matter. Now, you can't just put an AR-15 charging handle in it, but that's because of interior design as far as how the parts work, but it's pretty inexpensive to get a Radian version, the MCX version of your AR-15 favorite. So there is that. Muzzle device, of course, and then stock, butt stock. I mean, you can get the adapter tube for this gun to put on whatever your Magpul, BCM, denial defense, whatever stock you want. And so that, once again, is yet another level of how it just kept AR-15 customizability in all the right ways. Now, obviously, it has a rail on it, pick, M-lock. You know, it's got the pick on top, M-lock on the sides. So that's obvious as well. But still, that I just think when I look at other guns, they're just not, they don't have the same level of compatibility. A lot of guns still don't even have a top rail where you can easily put an optic like an EOTech, just throw it all in there. EOTech's kind of a go-to for me because you just clip it right on. So at the end of the day, I really like the kind of the carryover, if you will, from the AR-15. So trigger, not a lot for me to say because I'm not a trigger snob. I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm just not, it's got to be a real bad trigger for me to give a shit. And this, you know, factory trigger, I liken a lot to the Geisley I had in my Mark 18. And at this point I've shot almost exclusively with the MCX platform, the Virtus specifically, in the last year and a half. I'm just used to the trigger. So for me, it's good. Not much to worry about there. No, it's not compatible with the AR-15, so that was one that didn't carry over. However, the Spear LT is. So, you know, now that that exists, which that didn't exist when I started this project, awesome. But anyway, moving on from there. So the finish, I'm going to roll in some pictures here, but the finish is actually not that great. It marked up a little easy, and it even came with a couple components I got came with some blemishes, right? So I have two main weapon systems, and I have an array of barrels, rails, and even an additional upper, which then with an extra barrel and rail was assembled into a spare upper. So yeah, some blems. I think this comes down to quality control issues. I haven't seen much of those in my whole experience with this year and a half, but I've seen a couple little ones. Nothing crazy, but yeah, the finish, I really wasn't impressed. I hope the Spear LT has a better finish, because I was a little disappointed, especially for what you're paying for this gun. It'd be a little different if it was a lower price point, but and if anything else, the finish just doesn't keep up with the quality of the rest of the gun and how it performs. It's kind of like the finish was an afterthought. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to finishes, but just telling you what I see. Now, what probably a lot of people don't know is this kind of general design started with the MPX platform. So when they came up with it, they applied it to the MPX platform, then they had to adapt it to more actual rifle type design, which now they've done again with the Spear full size. So I think they did a really good job with it. And it is hard to take a weapon design and just make a couple changes. You really have to re-engineer everything to make sure it's all going to work correctly, and I think they definitely did that. And that's probably why there's such a big gap between the original MPX being released and the original MCX, is because they were really putting it through its paces. No one's perfect, and I'm not going to disagree that SIG tends to do some product testing with its customers before an item's really ready. Okay, so if you know that about SIG, just don't buy the first gen or whatever. Point is that I think we're at a really good place with the Virtus. Now the Spear LT I think is going to be a more refined version. From my interaction with it so far, I would say it definitely is. But really, if you have a Virtus, you don't necessarily need to jump right to the Spear LT. If you have a Gen 1, I'm not really familiar with that, but I do think the Virtus is a really great rifle. So, moving on from there. Now with that, I think it is probably best as a 300 blackout host, and 9-inch specifically, or even a little shorter. I'd probably do 9-inch or 6.75. I still haven't got my hands on a 6.75 barrel to test that out. I think I would really like it, just in terms of maneuverability, but I don't think you're really losing that much performance. Now 5.5 is a little short for me. I'm not really interested in that. Now as a 5.56 host, I really only recommend it 11.5. I see why they have some in 5.5. I think you lose a lot of benefits of the 5.56 cartridge. If you're going to do 5.5, you may as well do 300 blackout, in my mind, at that barrel length. Now, I don't recommend 16-inch really in either caliber, especially not 5.56. I figure 16-inch 300 blackout, you're probably hunting, probably doing more posting up. The weight may not matter, but I have a whole video on just the 16-inch Virtus and 5.56, and it is just a heavy platform, and it's unnecessary. So I bitch about the weight a lot, but it'd be a little different if I was getting a ton out of it. Now, I also have a video on why I like SBRs a little more than long rifle when it comes to AR type rifles, 5.56 specifically. And so that's my reasoning for kind of sticking with a shorter barrel. So I really just recommend it in 300 blackout, 9-inch, 6.75, and in 5.56, really just 11.5. You know, I think the balance is just really good at that 11.5, 9-inch. And something I'm really excited about, or I guess I really appreciated about this platform, is the folding stock system. It is just very convenient. It just makes the gun a little more manageable when you're throwing it in a truck or doing whatever. In fact, fitting a 16-inch in my safe, at one point I had the T-Rex Arms light bar pushing the light out, so even taking the suppressor off the end, the gun was still long. And being able, I mean, I literally couldn't have fitted in my safe if it weren't for the ability to fold the stock in and put it away in that configuration. So yeah, I really appreciate that. Now, as an attachment method, the 1913 is awesome. I really like it. There's already an array of products, partly because there's some other products that use that. So there's an array of products in terms of stocks themselves that are available. Of course, I have a video on MCX stocks. I don't want to go too much into it. But it's also super easy for making a pistol into an SBR. All I had to do in some cases was remove the pistol brace and then slap this on. It was as simple as loosening a screw, taking it off, putting a new one on, tightening the screw. So yeah, overall, it was just super easy versus technically you're supposed to be changing out buffer tubes because there's two different types of buffer tubes, which maybe have the supplies. It's still going to take a lot longer than doing that. Or if you don't have the supplies / know-how, you're taking to gunsmith and spending money versus the most you'd have to spend is buying a Torx key that you can use if you don't already have one. So now breaking the gun down, it's just nice certain times in your living day-to-day with guns. Sometimes it's nice to be able to break it down for various reasons, and that's just another way you can make the gun more compact or store it or whatever it is you're doing. It's just a convenience feature. I've found zero drawback in how basically the entire rear end of this weapon is managed between the 1913 attachment to the various accessory attachments I can get. I really like. So at the end of the day, that's fantastic. Moving on. Now, one of the other things that we see when we're doing, putting our recoil assembly up here, and there's no buffer tube or buffer assembly, all recoil is managed in the upper and not between the upper and the lower, is if you're going to run two different uppers, maybe one's suppressed, maybe one isn't, maybe one's an SBR, maybe one's long barrel. In an AR-15, you would generally tune, especially when you go suppressed to unsuppressed type, you would have to change out your buffer system to make sure that you're using the most effective buffer system for what your upper is doing, suppressed or unsuppressed, long barrel, short barrel, whatever. So by having this like this, it's already pretty much tuned for what you're going to do, and any other tuning is going to be done with the gas system up here. So that was something that kind of occurred to me later on in the game where I was like, oh, I don't have to screw with springs or anything or buffer weights. I just switch uppers and I go. And that is kind of one of those aha moments that I had. I don't see a lot of other people talk about that. I'm sure people think about that. But that is something I'm enjoying quite a lot. And overall, with the upper receiver design, I like it. I like it a lot. For one, the rail comes all the way out to here. So like I'll roll in pictures of me mounting some my LAM laser aiming module kind of back, because there have been complaints about some zero shift, and I didn't really see much, but I was shooting at really close range, which we'll talk about. But the ability to kind of mount optics, you got just more space for it to be hard mounted to the upper receiver, and this really stops about where your gas blocks are going to stop. So, it won't go past any muzzles. So, if it was a little longer, that'd be cool, but I understand why it's as long as it is, and I'm thankful for what I get out of it. As far as how everything works together, I like the system. I like the two recoil, rods and springs that the the bolt carrier rides along. That's all very well executed. I think it's interesting how it's open in the front, actually. but I think as much as it might allow debris in, it also allows debris out. So I find the system very easy to clean. That controls basically just I'll go ahead on the charging handle again, so it's good enough for me. Now, as I'll talk about, I had some gas management issues, and a lot of people, the first thing to go to is the a different charging handle. And the problem is, I saw so many things on one forum versus the other on which charging handle is good. Somebody thought the Radian was a lot better, and other people thought it was worse than the factory one. So I don't know what the hell to do with all that. And I'm not going to buy 10 charging handles to figure it out. So I just kind of more aggressively attacked how to solve the problem at the source, which we'll talk about. But yeah, so at the end of the day, I think the charging handle is good as part of the upper receiver. It's ambidextrous, which is what I like. And it's a little more refined than the standard, like, original M16 one, which M4s still come with. It blows my mind that anyone still uses those, but whatever. Now the safety, the mag release, bolt release, all that, as I said before, it's all good to me, but, it's ambi other than the bolt release, which I would love an ambi bolt release. Other than that, like I said, it carries over well, so that's basically a set of controls I've been using for a long time. So yeah, I would like it, not weird. I guess, and in my notes I wouldn't mind a side charger. I mean, using one in the store is kind of nice, but it does, of course, add another area where shit can get into it. So, I don't know, I don't, just saying I wouldn't mind it. I don't need it. I don't even necessarily saying I want it, but I wouldn't mind it. Yeah, recoil. I mean, it's not a big deal. On some of the videos, according to one person, it looked like I wasn't managing recoil very well. Maybe it's me. The gun is going to recoil a little bit rougher than, your standard AR-15. To a degree and not. It's a little heavier, so it helps absorb some recoil, but also just how the gas manages. I mean, there's just so many variables, not the least of which is me. But overall, the recoil is not a problem. Yeah, it's 5.56 and they're blackout. No, and I could fire pretty fast in some of the videos I rolled in, and it was fairly accurate as well. I mean, easily mag dumping probably half a magazine into target, I don't know, 20 meters away or something. Probably no bigger than the C zone, probably mostly A zone. So that's just it, easy to control. Yeah. Now getting into caveats and variables. As I said, no transition from AR-15 platform in terms of operation. However, for field stripping, there's a little bit of a transition, but nothing challenging. I'll get into cleaning here in a minute. We'll touch a little bit more on that. But in the meantime, accuracy, more than acceptable. With a red dot, I'm hitting 6-inch steel at 300 yards. Not really a problem. So, I didn't do any official grouping on paper for various reasons, but again, an acceptable military MOA, I don't know about today's standards, especially with the new SIG guns, but at one point it was 7 MOA, and 2 to 4 is a lot of people are good with. So yeah, this gun is probably a 2 MOA gun with the right ammo, probably a little tighter. And at this point, all at 100 yards, what I'm saying. As you get past there, but it's a heavy barrel. It is. So, maybe someone with the right juice can make it a 1 MOA gun. That wouldn't surprise me at all. I'm just not a huge long-range shooter in terms of precision. I can definitely ring steel a way out, but, yeah. The rails, of course, I have a whole video on them, so I'll make it quick. I like how removable they are. I like all the options that they have. That's really great. Air socket does make a little piece that helps tighten it on. I used it a little bit, but it got to the point where it wasn't necessary because the only reason I needed it was for a laser aiming module, which I was mounting further back. So, didn't really use it that much. I'll keep it for whatever reason. Now, price point isn't bad either. When you think about a lot of heavy-duty rails, they're usually $300 to $400, and these are about $200. So, and that makes sense because they're aluminum, they're a little bendy, a little flexible, so it didn't surprise me. I really look at these rails as convenient ways to protect a barrel and or suppressor. So obviously this one protects the suppressor and protects things from the suppressor. So I very much like that. As far as the 5.56 variants, just protecting the barrel, especially if I'm resting it on things. and it's just convenient to take it off and address the gas system and things like that. So I don't mind the size. It's not a problem for me, even the SD version. And yeah. Now the gas system. I'll speak specifically on suppressed at first. Overall, it's a good design. I like it a lot. It executes its job very well. The adjust on the fly is great. Very simple, very easy. Simple with 2 settings. I'd like more than 2 settings, but I do see the simplicity and the benefit to the 2 settings. Now, it is part of the barrel, and so that makes your barrel more expensive. But again, as I talked about in another video, so when people are like, why is it $600-700 for a barrel? Well, you're also getting a gas block, you're getting a piston, you're getting the, the muzzle device, you're getting, a bunch of, you're getting the valve, an adjustable gas block at that, you're getting a lot of stuff with it. And usually they come with a bolt as well. So, I don't think the price is that bad when you, like, put together a set. Like, don't just compare it to a barrel by itself. Like, price out a barrel and a gas block and all that, and then consider the fact this is a higher tier barrel. So don't compare it to the cheap barrel. Compare it to a, venerable barrel. So, yeah, it comes together. Now, the system could be better suppressed. One way to do that would be if SIG adjusted the port size, either in the valve, in the barrel, I'll call it, or in the entry port itself from the barrel. Or make that adjustable. I don't know. But there are probably a few good ways that they could do it. More setting, I think, would be the easiest way and the most effective way, especially because there is such a range of suppressors available on the market, and that range is growing every day. Now, I have heard of people swapping out gas valves. I didn't end up trying this on my own, but some people took their 300 blackout gas valves, put them in the 5.56 gun. I bet it worked pretty great. I mean, if you want to try it, by all means. I doubt it does great things for the warranty. When I talked to SIG about that on the phone, they frowned upon that. One of the reasons I didn't try that. But, I mean, I'll throw in pictures. They're very different holes for those gas valves. So, now my concern is that opening those holes, you're letting more force hit the piston, which could hurt your parts more, so you almost need tighter. But the way the gas shoots out the top, I don't know, just concerned me a little bit. Like you almost want, I don't know, I should have mentioned this more in the gas valve video, but anyway, it's complicated. It would take some thinking, but the point is that I think there could be some refinement there in the system if you're going to run this gun suppressed. More saying that to SIG, hey, customers are suppressing the shit out of their guns. I know you want them to buy your cans that flow better. Not everybody wants your cans that flow better. So, now, I do have another theory as well, because when I first realized how gassy the MCX Virtus is, I looked on some forums, and again, just like the charging handles, there's a very mixed representation of people who were satisfied with the suppressed, people who were dissatisfied with the suppressed, which got me thinking. If you remember back to when I talked about buying spare rails, handguards, and because there's 2 different types of handguard, frame, not length, but this way. There's 2 different eyelets, and both of the ones I ordered had the wrong eyelet in them. So someone's just putting the wrong part on the wrong item. So I got to thinking, what if in SIG's somewhat illustrious and very noted quality control issues, part of that is the wrong gas valves going into the gas system. And part of that is, for each caliber, there are a handful of different gas valves to throw in there, which is very easy to remove, by the way. So I kind of wonder, is someone putting the wrong gas valve in random guns, and so random guns are getting purchased, and that's why there's such a stratification of experience? I don't know. I think that's very feasible. So, SIG, start paying attention, for Christ's sake. Anyway, moving on from there. Cleaning. Some parts of it were impressively clean after many hundreds of rounds. probably went 1,000 rounds at one point without cleaning. And other parts weren't impressively clean, but they were still cleaner than I would think, especially like running that G5 on it here and there. I mean, that is a restrictive can. The gas is horrible. It's sending a bunch of shit back down that gun. When I took it apart to clean it, I was shocked how not dirty it was. It was dirty, needed to be cleaned, but I thought it was going to be way worse, especially coming from like my Mark 18, using that G5 on that 11.5 inch, or 10.5, 11.3, 10.3 barrel. I was expected to be, I mean, that's a gun I've had to use the forward assist on. I never had to use the forward assist to get these guns into battery. And I've used non-suppressed guns that I'd use the forward assist to get them into battery after firing so much. So I was pretty impressed with that. I know part of it's just how the whole system's managed. I wonder if the front being open allows some gas to escape when it comes down the barrel, because it's obviously not coming down the gas tube, because there isn't one. So increased gas with the face, but still the gun staying as clean as it was. I think the gas is either exiting the barrel, going in the block, or somehow skipping the chamber and hitting me in the face. It's weird. I don't know if there's portals inside there where the gas didn't get things dirty, but yeah. So the design kind of allows me to get into more spots to clean it, so that's also nice. And then I also like how you can remove the barrel to clean the star chamber if you want. Now you're still going to have to confirm your 0, but to get that deep clean on, then okay, put a couple rounds through to make sure your 0 is still good. Great, but it's a really neat feature because I fucking hate the star chamber. Now, one question I do have, which I kind of mentioned earlier with the bolt carrier group, is why do I need a tool to remove the bolt? I find that a little irritating. It's like an area I want to clean, partly because the Army told me to clean it. So it's just in me now to clean it, but maybe I don't need to hit it like a lot of people say you should. I don't know. So I just won't clean that part. I don't know. So yeah, next. So IR mounting, like I said, I moved my laser aiming module back. I really didn't have much zero shift, but I was shooting at such a close range because of my limitations on how to practice that. For stowing the MCX, I love that the stock folds, but it's also nice that you can kind of really break this gun down depending on how you have it configured. I gave an example. I'm fitting my 16-inch in my safe, but this is a good backpack gun. That's one of the reasons I was moving away from Mark 18. It interested me that you could fold the stock and do all that stuff. Remove the hand guard, so like this, I can break down and fit in a backpack pretty well because the suppressor comes all the way to there. So remove the rail, remove the suppressor, fold the stock. In many cases, I don't even need to separate the upper and the lower. So that's pretty awesome. Now, as a suppressor host, it is a better gun unsuppressed than suppressed, with an asterisk. I would say if you're going to suppress it, you're going to want a higher flow can, or I'm not sure the term. I don't use the Huxworks term. You can buy Huxworks, but you can also buy something else. Do your research. Pew Science, great source, but you want a can that allows for more flow out the front, even if that means using a 30 cal suppressor. So, something to consider. Even with the 16-inch configuration being more forgiving with a more restrictive suppressor, like my G5, there's still, I could notice some wear that was happening, a little more accelerated wear. So I kind of moved away from using that, except for here and there, especially when I thought sound would be relevant, more to show off. So other than that, I stuck with a Gemtech 1 on the 16-inch even, just because it was gentler on the system. Now a little funny nitpick, I don't think I showed on YouTube, when you remove the upper or just drop the lower down, let it swing, the charging handle and the bolt carrier group want to slide right out of the gun. Usually in ARs, they are good to stay in there unless you give it a little oomph. But no, they're ready to come right out. So it's actually kind of an annoying thing. Chalk that up to a complaint, not an objection, but just a complaint. I haven't really looked into the engineering, if it was worth it for them to figure out how to solve that, if they even noticed. Maybe they can't because of the design. I don't know. But I will say that I was kind of like, hey, stay in there, please. So for weight and balance, I kind of hit on this, but 16-inch, I think they're too long. So I'd stay with the SBR lengths. The SBRs are still heavier than your AR-15 variant of the same size, but they're still well balanced, and I think that weight's more negligible, and it's worth it for what you're getting out of this platform. So if you're looking at a Daniel Defense RIS-3 Mark 18 or 11.5, whatever, and you're looking at the Virtus and 11.5, 5.56, I'd go Virtus, honestly, at this point. I'm a Daniel Defense fan, so it's just where I'm at. Overall, I think the MCX Virtus is a well-executed departure from the AR-15 design. While it is certainly not perfect, let's remember that the AR-15 has been developed nearly as much as it can be in terms of refinement and perfection, for lack of a better term, and this is over the course of many decades. This means, though I find the design of the MCX Virtus and MCX in general superior to the AR-15 by a small to medium margin, I think that margin will increase as the MCX platform is developed further. That said, it has already been developed beyond what I have now tested, so it is time to test the latest version. So, moving on with the Sig Sauer MCX Spear LT, this has been James Donaldson with the Contemporary Gentleman, and until next time, keep your composure.